Welcome to another edition of the 1-2 with Kendrick and James. He is Kendrick Johnson. I am James Lynch. Hope everyone is doing great. We got a jam-packed show today. Kendrick, why don't you tell our audience who we got on the show today?
We got SI and DAZN's very own Chris Mannix. The guy can give you a lot of insight in boxing and a little bit of MMA. And we got the man who's one of the biggest things in combat sports right now. He's trending. The Reaches Boo Boo Andre, WBO middleweight champion of the world. You might have seen him in the Canelo press conference get cussed out of English by the Spanish-speaking Canelo that went viral.
Yeah, no, it was great. And great get from Kendrick. Another great week of guests here. As always, just want to remind everyone, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on the video. We're growing every day. You might as well be here from the start, everyone, because we're getting good guests every single week. A boxing heavy show today, but we're actually going to start with a bit of MMA. Kendrick, you were in Houston for UFC 262. How cool is that, man? Did I not tell you about Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, I think it was going to finish. I thought he was done the first round. The first round was exactly how I thought it was going to go, especially once he got out the I was worried about him on the ground. I wouldn't have had he choked him out. I would have been like that. That's how I thought. I didn't think he was going to finish him on the feet at all. But to me, it's crazy because Chandler, like people talking about that Conor and Poirier could have beat him, but I don't think neither one of them get out that choke.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I think Oliveira certainly showed that he's at the top of the heap. I mean, he's the champ now. Here's the thing, Kendrick.
Well, it's a 50-50 fight, though. I think Chandler can still beat him.
It was a 50-50 fight going in, and I agree. I think if they were to have a rematch, that fight could go a different way. But I thought Chandler looked great. I mean, if you're going to lose that way. He nearly finished him in that first round. And I see a lot of people, talking about, he's from Bellator and all these other things. But I mean, the guy, he's very legit. And I think his stock went up, if anything, even in a losing effort. I don't know how you felt, but that's how I thought. I thought there were no losers on Saturday. Even though Oliveira's the one with the belt, I thought Chandler is in a good spot regardless. And I have some ideas for what could be next for him. But what did you think of, just Chandler's performance overall? He was so close to winning.
He's so close. And Dana basically said the same thing in the post-fight press conference, the same thing, because all these people say he ain't fought nobody, so there's a lot of people that he can fight. So he basically, when I call your name, I don't need you saying no, because y'all won't say he ain't fought nobody. And to his credit, he wants to fight everybody.
I see a lot of people talking about how the winner of Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier will fight Oliveira next. I'm not so sure that's the case. I know, but I'm not so sure that's the case. Well, here's my take on this. I don't know how much longer Poirier wants to fight. I think a lot of it is about money now, and I know if you do have a title fight, that's usually a little bit more, but if you're looking at that Nate Diaz-Leon Edwards fight and Nate Diaz loses that, which I think he will, does Poirier go for a Nate Diaz fight? Because that's a money fight for him, and it's a winnable fight for him as well. I don't think it's about the belt for Poirier. And let's say McGregor wins. I don't even know if he fights Oliveira. I think there might be some other options for him as well. So we'll see, because I think these guys are about the money, because they had the opportunity to fight for the belt. I know Poirier did, but he wanted the payday against Conor. So that's what makes me think maybe we won't see them do that. So I think we'll have to wait and see as far as what's next for Oliveira, but I don't think anything's a slam dunk at this point.
I'm what you say about Poirier is spot on, but Conor is making money regardless. He's changing Poirier's life by fighting him. So whoever he fights, it's about the money, but it's not about the money. Conor's a walk-on. We have no idea. He could do the trilogy with Nate. He could go for the belt, but I don't think. But he doesn't tweet and IG for no reason. He did tweet Charles Oliveira, and I asked him directly in the post-fight press conference. He got a little ruffled, like, fuck Conor. He needs to worry about poor Dustin. He got a little ruffled by him. So here's the reason he was doing that.
But let me tell you this. If Conor and Oliveira were to fight right now, who would you pick? I'd pick Oliveira.
I pick Oliveira. After what I saw on Saturday, I pick Oliveira. Yeah. But at the same time, though, if Conor gets in the same position, Chandler gets him, he gets him out of there. I've not seen him not finish somebody that he's had hurt.
That's true.
Other than Diaz, but he was like 15, 20 pounds bigger than him that night of the fight. So that don't really count. He's fighting a way bigger man.
Yeah, and I think as far as Chandler, I think you do the Gaethje fight. They're both coming off losses. It's a very it's similar fight, right? Good wrestlers, both were started as wrestlers, both developed really good stand-up. I think that's the fight to make. I think there shouldn't be any question about that. I know people saying RDA or whatever. No. Gaethje and Chandler's the next fight. That should be the fight to make. And then the winner of that could put themselves in a good spot. Whether it's
what you think about? I call him the quiet man. I was impressed by Beneil Dariush. He did what he had to do.
But it's expected, though. I think it not to take anything away from Dariush. He fought a great game plan. He got Tony to the ground. Tony was on his back. I don't remember a fight, maybe other than Oliveira, where Ferguson was on his back so much. It was crazy. All the credit to Dariush, but I think it speaks more about Ferguson and how he's not a contender anymore. He's 37. He's taken a lot of damage. He's had a lot of injuries. I don't know where Tony Ferguson fits in that division right now. I don't know if he beats even some of the gatekeepers in that division at this point. Dariush is legit, but I think as well, I think that was a winnable fight for him.
Yeah, but the thing is about Tony is he would be a good story and a good feature on like all the he trains like a man. He ain't like the dude in the bed of his trainer. He embarrasses me and I'm his coach. Da. All that shit's fine and well if you're trying to run a triathlon or whatever. But for an MMA fight, I think he trains old school and it's dumb. You gotta be way smarter than that. You can't put your body through all that and then think he's gonna show up on fight night and be fresh. You're gonna look the way he looked. Father Tom's tapped on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I tried to be nice about it. Did you catch that? I tried to be nice about it because it was Tony. I didn't want to get booed in Houston because you would think we're in California where he's from. You would think he was from Houston the way the people acted.
They love him. He's got a huge fan base.
I seen Champions not get that much of a reception when he came out and stuff. But yeah, Tony's on his way out, I think.
How is it rubbing shoulders with Derek Lewis? I saw that. I saw you.
I got something I'm holding on to for business reasons, but man, that dude be wilding out. In fact, we transfer you the file so you can catch.
I gotta check this out. Yeah. I could just imagine the two of you together would be pretty funny, man. Funniest guy.
That's what I'm saying is he thinks he's gonna fight. He's gonna knock out Francis for sure. He's very confident in that.
Yeah, no, he was. The one other thing I wanted to mention on this card, again, it was a little, maybe not it ended up being a great card, but if you look at some of the names they lost on there, they lost Hermanson and Shabazz, and they lost Diaz and Edwards. I wanted to talk about
if they were at the Diaz fight, it would have been a classic card, I think. If the Diaz fight would have been like what we thought it would have been, that would have transcended this into it went from a very good card to a classic card, and would have probably been the top 3 underrated cards of history had that Diaz fight went on.
Well, I don't mind that it's on the Israel Adesanya card because they get a nice boost with that fight as well. So that'll be at UFC 263, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I'll be there too.
But I did want to mention, what did you think of that Edson Barbosa and Shane Burgos fight where I've never seen that before, where it looked like Burgos was hurt and he sort of just backed up towards the fence and fell over and then Barbosa gets a TKO win. But have you ever seen that even in boxing? I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Delay reaction. Got to catch that with the liver shots.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you do every now and then. I remember Scott.
Yeah, I've seen people in boxing with the liver shot because that's like very common. Those Mexican style fighters, they attack the body and they go crazy, especially at the lower weight classes. And you see a dude that been going like this for like 9 rounds. He catch that one right on the button after getting hit on it like 30 times, and all of a sudden he's still trying to fight. So I've seen it in boxing. I've never seen it in MMA. I don't know why people are freaking out.
No, it was just a weird like I initially thought his leg went out. That's when I was watching the live stream. We do the live stream show. I was like, his leg's down because Barbosa was kicking that leg pretty good. But no, now that I watched it,
he pushed his foot open, bro. His shit was bleeding. He was kicking him so hard. That was crazy. Like you see him kicking, you see him blood come out his foot because he was kicking him so hard. That was crazy. Yeah, but a pop star girl, Andrea, she told me to tell you hi. I hung out with her a little bit this weekend. Andrea KGB Lee. To me, that was the best she's looked in the octagon since she's
easily. Yeah, really good performance. And my co-host, my podcast co-host on my other show, Jim West. Shout out to him. Really good game plan. You know what? I've never seen Antonina dominated like that, other than maybe the Chukagan fight. But that was a really good win for Lee. That triangle looked like it was on for like 3 minutes. Like I was getting a bit worried. I was like, is she going to overexert herself? But she transitioned to the armbar. So
she would have got out that round. She might get finished. She said she had no legs. But not to be funny, she texted me. She goes, I listened to y'all get to the game plan. She pressured the shit out of her from the start. She made it a fight. It wasn't MMA or nothing. That's what she did. I don't know why more people don't do that, even men. We're gonna fight. I might lose, but we fighting today. It is a fight, and that's what Andrea came to fight. Not that Antonina didn't, but Antonina didn't think it was gonna be a rock'em sock'em. She thought they were like in the gym. We're gonna see who got the best technique, and a lot of people get in that mode. I think that's what happened to her. And then by the time she could react, she was on her ass. It was like, oh shit, she didn't think she was gonna be there, and she reacted late.
And it was a big win. Andrea had lost 3 straight fights, like we mentioned on the show last week. So for her to get a win like that, she's back in the driver's seat. I still think she's a threat at flyweight. To go out there and do what she did to Antonina, that's the type of win that reminds the division, hey, I'm still here.
She should fight Kaden Shahagan. That'd be a good fight. She's in a weird spot. Dana could. I stuffed Dana without even trying. I was asking a legit question, not trying to be funny. People understand. They actually like how you get Dana to get confused. Ask some questions. Do your homework.
Yeah.
But what does she do? What do you do with her? She can't be. We know she can't be Valentina. We saw that last year before COVID, and she's beating these other girls rather easily. So what do you do with her?
You just keep giving her up and comers. You have to, because she's not going to fight Valentina, or maybe she fights the loser of Murphy Calderwood. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways.
She beat both of them.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, she might have to get these rematches now or something. Like, they got to find her. Yeah. She's got to fight someone she hasn't fought, but she's not getting a title shot. There's two. It's the Murphy Calderwood winner is going to get the next title shot. And I know we got our next guest coming up here momentarily. Do you want to introduce him and bring him in here, Kendrick?
Gotcha. He popped up.
All right.
I haven't seen it.
Oh no, we're just waiting here. We got a little bit of time here, I guess. There we go.
There he goes. One of the best journalists in the world today, pound for pound. One of my favorite. I actually was a fan of his before I met him in person. Mr. Chris Mannix from SI and DAZN. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
What's going on, guys?
Love everything about this guy, except for that he's a Celtics fan. I let him make it on that.
That's why he wore the Lakers shirt. It figures Kendrick has to rub that in his face, whatever. So there you go. That's great. So yeah, Chris, great to have you on the show here. Obviously a lot going on in the boxing world right now. I kind of wanted to start first with this whole, YouTube boxing thing that's going on. As a veteran journalist in the sport, what do you make of the whole, campaign for, these fighters that are YouTube stars now trying to get themselves involved in boxing? Do you think it's a separate thing, or do you think it hurts the sport? No,
I don't think it hurts the sport. I don't know that it helps the sport, but I don't think it hurts it either. It's a different audience. They're not peeling off hardcore boxing fans to become fans of Jake Paul or Logan Paul or any other amateur boxer that may be trying to enter the sport. The reverse, though, may be true. I mean, you could have non-boxing fans watching these YouTube star shows become fans of guys that fight on the undercard. I mean, the Regis Prograis fight was a joke, but who knows? Maybe, there are new fans of Regis Prograis that were there to watch Jake Paul fight. So I just don't think it has a measurable impact on boxing itself one way or the other. What I would say is that if you are a traditional boxer and you are offended by the kind of numbers these guys are putting up on pay-per-views, take a long look in the mirror. You're the reason you're not succeeding at that same level. I mean, I still think, look, the Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders fight is a great example. If you are a high-level boxer who takes high-level fights, you can still draw crowds of 73,000 in Dallas, Texas, and you can still do monster numbers, whether it's on the streaming service like DAZN or pay-per-views, and make a boatload of money. The problem is not enough boxers do that on a consistent basis, and that, to me, is fundamentally the biggest problem boxing faces right now.
Chris, what's your take on the fact that they had came out the numbers for the Canelo? You might know them. Have you seen them? How come they haven't came out the numbers for the pay-per-view, which is very odd? It's been almost 2 weeks now.
They don't. First of all, they don't trust me with numbers. They know I'll burp it out there immediately. It's actually just, I think, more of a DAZN thing. They've decided, good or bad, they're not going to reveal new subscribers, any numbers whatsoever, including pay-per-view. This fight was also offered on pay-per-view, which, I was told there was a substantial number of people that bought it on pay-per-view, which is completely bonkers.
Not the app. I won't spend my $20 on the app.
That's what I'm saying. It's completely bonkers that there are still people that are like, I'm gonna buy the pay-per-view for $50, $60 instead of spending, $20 or buy a yearly subscription to DAZN. That just strikes me as completely, backwards. But a lot of people bought the pay-per-view that are Canelo fans that don't subscribe to DAZN. All I can tell you is that the DAZN executives I saw after the fight, extremely, extremely happy. Probably, I would say, the happiest I have ever seen them after a fight. So that tells me that the numbers are pretty good.
Yeah, I talked to Joe after the fight. That's the first time. Funny, I see him in all the fights. I'm like, this is Mr. DAZN. That's the guy with the plan right there.
Yeah, Joe Markovsky, basically in charge of all things with the global part of the app. I mean, he's done a lot of work to try to grow this thing globally to the point it is right now. And as they try to infiltrate the UK and try to build up in the US, two of the biggest, fan bases when it comes to boxing, I think they're on a good path here right now. I mean, it's going to take time to fully, build out what you want to build out in the US. It's a tough market to crack, but so far so good, at least in this post-pandemic landscape.
What do you think that they have to do with Canelo? Because they keep talking about Caleb Plant, and we both know the politics. James Conor does. How is this going to happen? We've never seen a DAZN fighter fight on PBC. We haven't seen a PBC fighter fight on DAZN. So something's got to happen politically for this to happen. This fight to happen.
Yeah, in a way. Look, look, Canelo's a network free agent. He can do whatever he wants. He got out of that deal for a reason, and now he's able to bounce back and forth between whatever networks he wants to be. And now he is still working with Eddie Hearn, and that suggests that, there'll be a strong DAZN offer for Canelo's next fight. But if Canelo decides he wants to take X amount of money to fight on Fox pay-per-view or Showtime pay-per-view, he has the freedom to ultimately do that. So does Caleb Plant, by the way. I mean, Caleb Plant is not tied to a network either. He is just with an advisor in Al Heyman, who has all of his fights either on Fox or on Showtime. So there is a little bit of a rock in the hard place between them. But one thing I would say about Caleb Plant, I wouldn't screw this up if I'm Caleb Plant. Like, Canelo's got options. I mean, Canelo, as much as Canelo wants that fourth piece of the title, the more substantial mainstream fight remains a third fight with Gennady Golovkin. It just is. Average fans still would sign on to watch that fight more than they would sign on to watch Caleb Plant. As a boxing purist, I mean, I could sit here and say I would love to see an undisputed super middleweight champion. I would love to see Canelo take on a new challenge in the undefeated Caleb Plant. But that's not how the casual boxing fan operates. They look at names, and they know that Canelo against Golovkin still resonates. It still sticks in their head. Like, oh, I might watch that. I might find that on the DAZN app or on pay-per-view. So, like, Canelo, if it doesn't work out with Caleb Plant, he can probably pivot pretty quickly and maybe make more money to fight Gennady Golovkin for the third time. Look, if they do that fight at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, is what they're targeting for Canelo's next fight, it probably sells it out.
65,000 people.
65, 7, whatever the number is, it probably does a massive number in that building. So, Canelo can, it's his world. And if I'm Caleb Plant, I have to understand that. I can't be pricing myself out or insisting a fight is on X platform. Look, I'm a broadcaster with DAZN. It always struck me as bizarre why boxers gave a damn what platform they fought on. Like, who gives a shit if you're out there, like, who's calling your fight? Like, who does? Honestly, like, what does it matter who is calling your fight or what platform is streaming it? As long as the check clears, that's all that matters to you. All that should matters to you. So I hope Caleb Plant, understands the magnitude of this moment and this opportunity, because if he doesn't get Canelo, what does he do? Does he fight David Benavidez for less money, less prestige, a fight that he could lose? Does he fight Jermall Charlo, a fight that he could lose? To me, this is Caleb Plant's moment to put his foot down and say, this is the fight I want. We have to make this happen.
And we talked about the viewership with the Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders fight. And I think part of that, and this is something Kendrick and I talked last week, is that Canelo's English is getting a lot better. And he's really starting to translate. Like, we know how big of a star Canelo is, especially, with the Latin American market. But if you look at the fact that now he's starting to get the English going, there was that great clip of him, post-fight where he's getting into it with our next guest actually on here today. But do you get that sense that Canelo's finally turned a corner in terms of his popularity in the US, in terms of him being this, bigger star that everyone thought he could be? But I feel like now he's hotter than ever.
Look, 73,000 suggests he is. I mean, that's just an absurd number for an indoor boxing match, a record for an indoor boxing match. Has he turned a corner? I don't know. I mean, I think the more English he speaks, the more of that corner he will turn. Yeah. Because if he ever gets to a point where it can be conversational, I mean, look, he understands everything you're saying to him. Like, he's never needed a translator to tell him, at least for me anyway, tell him what I said. It's always that he's just not as comfortable as he'd like to be speaking English back to you. But that interview he did with me before the fight, where he spoke entirely in English, that was the first time he's ever done that. The interview we had after the fight, a lot of it was in Spanish, but a couple of times he broke it off and spoke English, answering those questions. First time, I believe, he's ever done that as well. So if he can ever get to the point where it can be conversational, we could see him start to appear on those talk show circuits. I mean, Pacquiao's English, command of the English language was never anything more. It was never anything significant. Yet he appeared on Jimmy Kimmel every time he fought in the US. If Canelo can get to that point where he can just have a 5-minute conversation with you speaking English, you are going to see him appear on those mainstream American television shows, and that is going to build his brand to another level.
Well, I think then Canelo's got to probably start singing then too. That was part of Manny Pacquiao's thing as well. They could bring him on. They could do the karaoke, right? So
yeah, I go to you 1,000%. Because I always tell people, before I start, like, I covered Canelo Trout, And that's the first time I even saw Canelo. I'm like, I'm asking this man questions in English. He's answering in Spanish with an interpreter, so he don't know. And then I was in his gym about 4 or 5 years ago before the Chavez Jr. fight where he whooped him. And I heard him speak English like for a good long time. Like, why don't you that person? He goes, I tried, my friend. He's like, so now to see him do it publicly was been pretty cool. It kind of like James was saying, gonna take him globally and people be more accepting of him because he can do it. It's just how comfortable he gets. Because did you see the interview with Graham Basinger that he did?
Yeah,
that was gold. Props to that man too, because I'm kind of I watch what other people do. I'm like, oh, he's all right, but shit, he knocked it out of the park with that.
He did. And I asked Canelo about that, like what. Look, because Canelo gets asked about that stuff all the time. He just usually demurs on all of it. He just said, look, he was comfortable. Look, and Graham, to his credit, went down to Mexico, set up shop in Canelo's house. That certainly had to have increased the comfortability factor of Canelo in that moment. All credit to Graham for doing that and getting more out of Canelo than I think anybody has up until this point.
Yeah, I know you probably close second to get it. I saw I was in the arena, so I didn't see I couldn't hear what y'all was saying when you were in the locker room, but I heard the post fight and he was pumped up. So, and then we got the real Canelo when Boo Boo showed up. What you think about that? That was like scripted chaos. And then him just speaking English and going off in English, I think in a weird way helped him transcend to another level. And that was the real Canelo right there.
I mean, look, I understand what Demetrius was doing in that moment. I think it probably helped him overall because people were talking about it after the fact, and not enough people are talking about Demetrius Andrade, but Canelo won that exchange. I mean, he had every comeback in the book to throw at Demetrius Andrade, and it didn't go well for Demetrius, but it doesn't always have to go well. I think he put himself on the map to some fans that may not have been aware of just how many fighters have avoided Demetrius Andrade. And look, I don't like to say fighters duck other fighters, but Demetrius Andrade has been ducked. I mean, Jermall Charlo has been ducking Demetrius Andrade. It's a simple fact. Like, Demetrius has another world title. Demetrius and his team, Eddie Hearn, offered Jermall Charlo $7 million to fight him. Like, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for? At some point, you've just got to take the fight. So the opportunity was there. And look, Demetrius, as Eddie Hearn told me in the ring after his last fight, he would have taken the exact dollar figure that Sergey Derevyanchenko took to face Jermall Charlo last year. And whatever you think of Derevyanchenko, a Charlo-Andrade fight is far more significant and far more meaningful than a Derevyanchenko fight would be. So, Demetrius, I feel bad for him, man. Like, he continues to get avoided by these top fighters. I'm not really sure why. Like, I don't look at Demetrius Andrade as being prime Guillermo Regendow or somebody like that. He's beatable. Like you saw in that Liam Williams fight, he can get clipped. He can get hurt. He can get into a firefight at times. So I think he's the kind of fighter that's being avoided for some weird reasons that are not necessarily true when it comes to Andrade. I just hope he gets a top fight before he gets too old to be kind of in his best form.
They're saying that Charlo trying to reach out to him. On word of the street is that he's trying to reach out to him, trying to get something done by the end of the year.
No, I mean, good. Look, I'm a big advocate for that fight, as anybody that's listened to me knows. But it's not like I think Andrade's destined to win. I think Charlo's a great fighter. He could absolutely win that fight. He might even be the favorite in that fight. We just got to see it. Like, Charlo versus Juan Montiel is one of the biggest pieces of dog bleep that you'll ever see as a main event on a network. It just is. Like, Montiel has not earned that fight whatsoever. His best win was his last one, which came against, the artist formerly known as James Kirkland at that time. So, like, it's not like he's coming in riding this momentum that fight was called for. He got pancaked by Jaime Munguia like 4 or 5 fights before that. So I need to see Charlo face a top opponent. Now he's calling out Gennady Golovkin. He's looking to move up to fight Canelo. Andrade's right there. He has no fights. He's waiting for that opportunity. I just want to see Charlo and Andrade get in the ring. And by the way, the winner will have the mandate to fight anybody from 160 to 168 in 2022. They will be the top contender for Canelo, for Golovkin, for whomever, if they fight each other and the winner comes out of it.
How's that go 2 weight classes? I heard that too. We were talking about that during fight week. How's that happen that he gets 2 weight classes they can skip up like that? Because someone's like, yeah, Charlo has been Canelo's WBC, at least when he was at middleweight, for like 2 years, and his name never came up.
Yeah,
how's that go?
the WBC is the land of make-believe. Like they just make, I mean, they make a franchise when they don't want to have a guy face a mandatory, they make him franchise champion. They'll do literally whatever Canelo wants. Like if Canelo wants to be franchise champion at 168, they will allow it. It's not like there's no mandatory situation. Canelo would just fight Charlo because he wants to fight Charlo, and he'd fight Andrade if he wants to fight Andrade. Now, Andrade's got a little bit of leverage to force Canelo to make a tough call. That WBO rule that says if you are the champion in one weight class, if you move up, you become mandatory challenger in the next one. That's something that Alexander Usyk has exercised recently, which is why he's now in line to fight for the heavyweight title for the WBO's version of it at some point in the next few months. So, like, Andrade can force Canelo to make a tough call, can say, look, I'm not going to fight you, and I'm going to vacate, which wouldn't be a great look for Canelo. Or he can force the fight with Canelo if Canelo decides in 2022 he wants to face him. So Andrade, I think, is in a stronger position to potentially force a fight. But for Charlo, it's just that he's a decent-sized name, and Canelo would want that on his resume.
And they could do it in Texas.
Yeah, they could do it in Texas. That's true.
They would do a non-pandemic. They would do 100,000. After what I saw last week, because Chris was there, that atmosphere match, and Charlo's from Houston. They do 100,000, or they do it at the where Canelo fought Kirkland at Minute Maid Ballpark, where the Astros, and do 50,000-60,000. But yeah, they could do. That's what making numbers.
They could do a big number, but yes, Charlo's from Houston, but it's still going to be 95% Canelo fans there. Like, that's just the way it works. Canelo was at Madison Square Garden, fighting a couple of years back against Rocky Fielding, and it was 100% Canelo. Wherever Canelo goes, it's going to be the vast majority of his fans, the loudest fans are going to be his.
Wanted to mention, I know we don't have that much time left. This Oscar De La Hoya thing. We heard, rumblings over the weekend that he was supposed to fight George St. Pierre. The UFC came in and stopped it, which I think, that speaks to the UFC and what they're trying to do. But how is Oscar getting to fight at this point? I mean, we just saw him, weeks ago on Triller. He wasn't looking great. I know it would be an exhibition, but how does something like that even get licensed?
Well, it's a good question. I think more likely than not, you're going to see a De La Hoya return happen in a state like Georgia, which really doesn't care and will license anybody. I mean, they were prepared, might be prepared to license Evander Holyfield at that point. Evander Holyfield, Kevin McBride, which is even more crazy, given the ages of both those men. So I think De La Hoya is going to be able to get in the ring through some state commission. The question is, who does he take on? I mean, St. Pierre would have been fine. Like, he's not a boxer. De La Hoya probably would have worked him over. Dana White's got his reasons for not wanting to get involved in this whole celebrity boxing type of circuit, but it's a tough look. I would have probably let George do whatever he wants, try to make a little bit of money as he's going out the door. De La Hoya has also been saying he's planning on fighting a real contender. Every time he talks, he says, you should see who I'm going to fight. It's somebody you'll think is going to smash me. Well, St. Pierre would not have smashed him. He just wouldn't have. De La Hoya, even at 48 years old, would have been the favorite in that fight. I think it's more like than not going to be a St. Pierre type, an Eddie Alvarez type, one of these MMA guys who are faded that they put in the ring as a name to get in with De La Hoya. It's not going to be somebody that can threaten him in any way, shape, or form.
But what's your take on Dana White going off the other day? I don't know if you keep up with the MMA side. I went from Dallas to Houston, and he just went off on the Triller people. He said, they call me every fucking day to do this fucking thing. I'm tired of it. It was hilarious. He went viral, of course.
Well, I mean, look, Dana knows Triller's trying to, they're trying to take the guys that Dana has built and put them in boxing matches. That's not something that Dana wants to do. Now, you can argue the merit of it. I mean, they're probably not going to win many of these boxing matches, but they will make a healthy amount of money doing it. But Dana's just not that interested in being part of that sideshow. Now, I'm sure if Triller said, like, we'll do an MMA fight with Daniel Cormier against Jake Paul, that might get Dana's interest, because that's when their fighter has a good chance to win and not get embarrassed. But I think on the back of Ben Askren getting just flattened in the first round, that's just more reason for Dana not to throw these MMA guys into the mix. I just don't think you'll see a top UFC guy being allowed to fight on these Triller cards unless it's in the MMA sphere. It's just not going to happen.
And what do you make of Clarissa Shields heading over to MMA? She's with PFL. I think that's a smart move because, really in PFL, she can fight. They can basically find opponents for her. The girl she's fighting actually has a losing record, which that's what you should do. They shouldn't give her a really tough fight out of the gate. But what I find so interesting about Shields is she's in the prime of her career right now. You could even say maybe not even in the prime. She's still, in her mid-20s, going to take an MMA fight. What do you make of her move? And could we see others doing the same thing?
Well, it probably depends on how successful Clarissa Shields is. Now, I understand her doing it. There's not a lot of money in women's boxing, especially not in the weight classes that Clarissa Shields has populated. So if you can make a couple of bucks on your name and going over and capitalizing on that in MMA, more power to you. But if she winds up getting obliterated in this first fight, she's probably not going to fight in mixed martial arts again. There probably won't be an appetite for it ever again. So a lot of it's on her. I'll give her credit. She put the time in. She went to Albuquerque, New Mexico. She worked with John Jones. She's worked with Holly Holmes. She's worked with some of the top MMA fighters, both men's and women's. So she's as prepared as she's going to be. But as you guys have seen, it's a different sport altogether. They're both combat sports, MMA and boxing, but they are nothing alike. It's a lot like baseball and wiffle ball. It's just you just can't be they're just not on the same path or same wavelength as each other. So I'll be interested to see how Clarissa performs and if her MMA career can take off, because if it can, her name still carries a lot of weight and she'll be able to make some real money.
I agree. And by the way, I think people forget that we had James Toney come over and fight Randy Couture. Like, people forget about that. And obviously
I was at that fight. That was embarrassing. That was in Boston. I was at that fight. That's right. That was tough to watch.
Yeah, no, I know. So it kind of just speaks volumes to what would happen, right? So yeah, you're right about that.
And before we let you out, Chris, what's two things you have to see before 2021 in the boxing world? If you could put your wand and make it happen.
Well, I mean, Fury and Joshua is the big one. Now, there's some news today about Deontay Wilder winning that lawsuit against
we got
to
fight third fight?
Well, they say he does. It's still evolving. As you guys, as we were talking, one of Wilder's people called me, so I'll get some more information on that in the next couple of hours. But, that puts in doubt the fight between Joshua and Fury. Now, you can't make somebody fight somebody else. Like, it's boxing. You can't force somebody into the ring. What Wilder can do is sue for breach of contract and potentially have Fury stripped of that belt. Now, how does that change the Fury-Joshua dynamic? I don't know, but that certainly is something that's worth watching over these next couple of days.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Before we go, Kendrick, we got to do the sign off before we get out of here.
Let everybody know who you are. One of the best pound for pound journalists in the world today. And you're listening to Kendrick and James on the 1-2 podcast.
Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated. Listen to Kendrick and James on the 1-2 podcast. I'm also Demetrius Andrade's personal PR man. So if you talk to him, just know that there's no bigger advocate for Demetrius Andrade getting a big fight than Chris Mannix.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks so much for the time, Chris. And
perfect, brother. Thank you, man.
So there we go. That is Chris Mannix from SI and DAZN joining us here. Great insight onto a lot of stuff. I didn't know that about the Wilder thing. So some breaking news.
That's just breaking news. Yeah, that I knew they would have the lawsuit. I didn't know it was going to go through like this quick. But yeah, they signed a contract that they get 3 fights. Boo Boo. That's the man. What's up, Boo Boo? How you doing, brother?
Good. I'm good. You?
Doing good, man. This is me and my man James Lynch out in Canada. We doing it international style over here on the 1-2 podcast.
All right.
What's up?
What? Get some insights to that buzz you got going on right now, coming off that Canelo press conference. You got people that didn't even know who you were. Boom, they want to see that fight now.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take action. You gotta make moves, man. Ain't nobody gonna take care of yourself other than the way you're gonna take care of your own self. So, I'm doing things that I gotta do to strive for greatness. Do what I gotta do to make fights happen, and this ain't the first time I have done it, but it just happened at the right time and place.
What's your take on the fact that your position that if you don't get the Canelo, what's the status with Jamal Charlo in your weight class in the unification fight? Because people in the street are telling me that he's reached out to you. Is that true or is that false?
Wait, say that one more time.
I said, word on the if you don't get the Canelo fight, word on the street is that Jamal Charlo has reached out to you to do a unification fight. Is there any truth to that?
I haven't been informed, so I don't know if it's true or not. You know, that's something I'm not going to sit here and say it ain't. I just haven't been informed yet by anybody on my staff to tell me if something's been sent. But you know, in due time, I would know if it's real or not.
Interesting. I got to know when you're, you know, doing this at Canelo's presser after his fight. Did you get a lot of fans, Canelo fans, on social media just coming after you for that whole thing? You must kind of enjoy that too.
Yeah, of course. I got a lot of things. I got a lot of funny things. I got. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. You know what I'm saying? My memes is coming soon, baby. I'm building up the ammunition right now. The memes are coming. But other than that, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I prove like over and over by continuing to keep winning, and I'm just, you know, not just me, but we all want to see me in a bigger fight versus the bigger name, because at the end of the day, when you be like, oh, the fans are like, oh, he hasn't fought nobody, he hasn't fought nobody. Well, the only people, right, that they want to see me fight are Canelo, Triple G, Charlo, and whoever else is a champion. You know what I'm saying? Those are the only names that's mentioned. There's not too many people out there to be fighting that is, you know, at that top level at this time and point. So, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make it happen. I'm not getting no younger. You know, black don't crack, but I'm not getting no younger. And so, I mean, you know, I'm just trying to make it happen.
Does the fact that Canelo was like quote unquote disrespectful, do you take that personal, or that's just part of the game?
It's cool. You know, you say what you want to say, but at the end of the day, it's like, let's fight. If I'm this horrible fighter, why not? Why haven't we fought already in the makings of when I was 154 champion and I was 160-pound champion? And you say, you know, you want to unify, and the only way you could have done that and had the opportunity to become that was to fight me, and you know, it didn't happen. What's going on, Kelly? You know what I mean? So it's like enough is enough from like the whole, you know, thing about, you know, like popularity and all this other stuff. Is like, yo, the best need to fight the best, and that's it. You know, my situation is different than Canelo's situation. He was, you know, brought up with the golden boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had that. You know, he already had a lot of the business under control, the media. You know, the way how they move, like through Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, like, you know, he is boxing. And so to have a promoter like that and be able to, like, you know, secure and get the fights and have, like, you know, demands and, you know, be the A side and make things happen because of that status alone, you know, he's in a good position. I can't say anything, you know, bad about, you know, Canelo, because at the end of the day, he has to win, and they're doing a good job with putting him in with the guys that he needed to be in with at the time. But look at who like, you know, who he fight his last few fights that was like worthwhile though, you know.
Do you think he can be Caleb Plant, since that's the day everybody throw it out because they want to see him unify? How do you think that fight go?
I mean, I think Caleb Plant's young, still got a lot more, you know. He can still mature. He still needs to mature, you know, and having more experience in the boxing ring. Yes, I think he has the tools to beat Canelo, but right now, to beat Canelo, I think there's only one guy to do that, and that's me.
Sound like a real champ.
You can't, you can't, like, one thing about, you know, like, Billy Joe was trying to play tag all night. You can't play tag. You understand what I'm saying? He was trying to tag with the jab, throw a little thing, move a little. Yeah, okay. He landed a few combinations, but yo, where's the respect at? Where was the power at? Where there was nothing shown to have that respect. And, you know, I don't know about Caleb Plant as far as like his punching power to gain respect from somebody like Canelo, but I know I have the punching power of both hands and the ability and to be slick to make sure he respects everything I do.
I said very much last week on this podcast that whoever beats Canelo's got to have power, and I think the fight was in it. What you think when he cut him with that left, him as in Billy Joe in the fourth round flush, and Canelo kind of like laughed him off? I think the fight was over with right there because then Canelo started walking him down. What's your take since you were ringside too? Champ.
It was kind of hard to hear what you said. It was a little staticky, but if it's about, you said something about landing a punch. I mean, like
I say when Billy Joe landed that punch in the fourth round. When Billy Joe landed that punch in the fourth round, and Canelo kind of laughed him off. I think the fight was over with there because he knew he could walk him down because he didn't have no respect for his power. That was when the fight turned, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if anybody, that's just how it is. If you ain't got power, you ain't keeping somebody, on their toes or honest, they're just gonna keep pushing forward. And then you got that, and then you got Billy Joe doing the most amateur moves by bending forward. You know what I'm saying? Bending to a right hand, like that's amateur shit. I was doing that shit when I was, 8, 10, 12 years old. I got hit in sparring. I was like, I knew that shit again. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't expect to do that at that type of, elite level. And, at the end of the day, when you look at Billy Joe's last opponents himself, he went 12 rounds with Martin Murray, He looks sluggish. He went 12 rounds with Martin Murray, so you can't expect somebody like Billy Joe to come out and have all this power all of a sudden and think he's going to just beat on Canelo when he couldn't really beat on Martin Murray, who's like 40 years old plus.
And then you talked a bit about the press. Yeah, no, you mentioned the presser when you went there and stuff. Is part of you worried at all that maybe some of Canelo's team's going to come out and try and attack you? Like, were you worried that things might have gotten physical at any point?
Wait, say what time?
Oh, no worries. I was just saying in the whole when you went to his press conference and Crash's press conference, was part of you ever worried that things might get physical, whether members of his team coming out and attacking you or anything like that?
Nah. Nah. I mean, at the end of the day, I got my security team too, just in case things pop off. But it ain't that type of level. It ain't. We're not going there.
We're not going there apparently at all. He's not on the call anymore. We're gonna try and get him back here.
I got implemented a new rule. Hey, yes, you can't be in your cars. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out.
I did an interview today where a guy was on a hike, so I've seen it all when it comes to doing interviews.
I did the hike. I do been at amusement park with his kid and did a show at shout out to my man Matt Wells and Slip and Dip.
Yeah, no, you got to do what you got to do. So there we go. We got the champ back on.
It's a champ back on. Are you back, champ?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hello.
What's going on?
All right, we need your landscape. There we go. There we. What do you want to say to people that criticize you for your performance against Leah Williams? Oh, he should have got him out of there. What's he doing? He ain't a real champ. What's your take to that criticism you got? You had a dominant win and won like 10 out of 12 rounds.
I think you got to repeat that.
Hello?
Yo, I don't know, but it's mad hard to hear you right now. It's mad static. I don't know if it's me. I don't know.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now, champ?
Yeah, I hear you, but there's mad coming in.
Oh, I have no idea. James, you got some insight? Maybe he hear you better.
No worries. Yeah, we'll try my end or whatever. I wanted to ask you. We had Chris Mannix on before this. What are your thoughts on all these YouTubers getting into boxing? Do you like it? Do you think it's its own thing? Oh, hold on. The beauty of live television. I love it. Still there? Sounds like we're in air traffic
much better. I got you on.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds better. Chad, what do you think about people that criticize you for the Liam Williams win? That said that you should have got him out of there. You won 10 out of 12 rounds very, very easily, and you put him down on his butt on the second round. Hello. Hello.
If you was there, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, listen, Liam Williams, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you fine.
Yeah, Liam Williams, man, he's a tank. You feel? You know, he was a real tank. He came to fight. I mean, he worked his ass off to be in a position that he got into, be able to fight for a championship against me. And I did what I had to do, coming off 15 months being inactive. And shit, I displayed I displayed some uppercuts. I was the uppercut professor that night.
You go, James.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. No, I wasn't sure if you had more to ask there. And then sort of.
And at the end of the day, like, who's knocking out anybody right now? Who got knocked out? Who got knocked out?
That's a good point.
Nobody trying to see Boo Boo.
Who? Triple G knocked out Salsa Water. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Who's knocking out who? Every time I get in the ring, people hit the canvas every single time. They might get back up because I'm fighting some warriors. I'm fighting some warriors in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm fighting real guys. I'm not fighting guys that come lay down. I'm fighting warriors. But every time I step in the ring, boys go and touch the canvas. One way or another. You don't see that with nobody else. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. When would be an ideal time for you to have your next fight? Do you have like sort of a timeline of when you'd like to get back in there?
Whenever, July is something that I heard there might be an opportunity. Or August, September sounds good to me too. I mean, hopefully one more time before the year's up.
Chad, what's your take on these YouTubers getting some of y'all shine, coming to the boxing ring, making a bunch of money, fighting all these MMA guys that people don't know about or they washed up, and they get like real platforms, making real money?
I mean, it's cool. It's cool for me. At the end of the day, it's how off I guess started was like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, whatever wanted to fight the KRS dudes. I guess they had like some type of drama outside, and they turned it into boxing. So whenever some violent shit in the streets can revert into going into the boxing ring to solve the difference and get paid, I'm all for it. And now they're trying to take it to the next level as far as Jake Paul actually trying to fight fighters. He's not fighting the best of them, but he was making money just off YouTube. So he don't have his followers, and they keep demanding a little bit more than somebody coming up, which at the end of the day, that's just what it is.
Yeah. Do you think?
I can't say here not somebody's to fulfill themselves and take care of their bills, man. That's just what it is. And if it's gonna help,
Oh, we lost his audio. The beauty of doing this remotely.
The other beauty.
Oh, I think we got you back. You cut out for a second there. Yeah. It's all good. We got you back there. Hey, what do you make of Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul?
I couldn't do it at this time, but you guys want to do it this time. So whatever.
Oh, no worries. No, we're thankful to have you on, man. We appreciate it. Kendrick, you got any more questions?
Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he has the luxury to do these things and make a lot of money. Not fight nobody because at the end of the day, he's done it for a long time. He fought the best at the time, and whatever. He sees there's another opportunity to make some good money without fighting anybody dangerous. Why not? That's what they do now in today's world.
So I see you in Miami. I know you a fight fan. You pop up in fights all the time. When you gonna be out there in Miami?
I mean, it all depends, man. I usually go where the wind goes, but I just go see what happens, man. Gotta be a straight up movement for me, man.
And a final question for
it was like, you want to go to Canelo fight? I was like, nah, I don't want to go to Canelo fight. I'm good. I don't need to go. Shit, 3 days before the Canelo fight, I was like, Fuck it. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Let's go down and bring down the house. Let's go and fucking make some noise. You know what I mean? Let's shit. Motherfuckers, let's fight.
On the 1-2 podcast, we all about giving fighters and people in this game that know what the hell they're talking about a platform. Can you send a message out to Canelo and send a separate message out to Jamal Charlo on why they need to get a ring with you, why I need to get it on within the next few months?
I mean, the message is the best fight the best, because at the end of the day, that's what the sport's about. That's what legacy is about. That's what, it's going to put a lot of money in your pockets as well, And that's it. That's just the message. You're the best, and let's fight. Beat me up. That's what I say. You can beat me up. What you guys waiting for? I'm a horrible fighter. Well, come take my record, come take my belt, and send me on my way. And give me that payday. I know, payday. I'll take that too.
There we go. Probably a good time to wrap things up. Kendrick, do you want to get the sign off before we get out of here?
Can you let our fans know who you are and tell them you're listening to James and Kendrick on the 1-2 podcast?
Jay and Kendrick on the 1-2 podcast. Demetrius Andre here, 2008 Olympian, good, 18 knockouts, WBO champion. I'm the new can man. Anybody can get it.
There we go.
Peace.
Awesome. So there you have it. Demetrius Andrade joining us here on the program. Sorry about the connection, everyone, but this is what happens. We get guests. They could be anywhere, right? But it doesn't matter. The point is they take time to talk to Kendrick and James on the 1-2.
I always tell people, we have people ask us questions like in Houston and in Jacksonville and in Dallas. Man, how y'all get these people on the show? I say people talk about these fighters. We talk to them, and we got the receipts. If you go on YouTube and Facebook page at Next Gen and NSPN, you go down and say, oh, boom. A lot of people talking about Demetrius Andre. A lot of people talked about Teofimo Lopez. A lot of people talked about even Rashad Evans, retired Hall of Famer. But we got them on here on the 1-2 every Monday.
So what do you think is next for Canelo? I wanted to get your take on that as well. Do you think, this
He's telling the truth. I think it is because there's too much buzz around it, but they act like it's a done deal. I'm glad Chris was a voice of reason. That's why one of the reasons I had somebody like Chris on. There's never been a DAZN fighter on PBC and been a BBC fighter on DAZN. So something's got to give. They're like, oh, Canelo's a free agent, but people know label Canelo as a DAZN fighder right now. He's like, it's basically a DAZN fighter. So regardless of what the contract says, he's labeled as his own fighter. So I want to see how this is going to happen because there's a lot of politics about it. It's not like Dana he's doing to John Jones. Hey, you better fight. I'm gonna find somebody else. F you. Ain't that don't happen in boxing?
No, it doesn't, because they're the entity. It's not the promotion, right? That's what it comes down to. Dana's like, we got to deal with ESPN. We got to fill up these cards. John, if you're not in, we're going to go with Derek Lewis, right? That's as simple as that. They have that leverage. They can't do that in boxing because the fighter is the entity.
Right, and everybody's their own boss, and then there's 4 different proprietors: PBC, Golden Boy, Top Rank, and DAZN, aka Matchroom. There's really Matchroom, their promoter that they fight on DAZN, and that's why you got so much craziness. I always try to tell people when I was at the boxing fights, they're like, "Man, you cover MMA?" I'm like, "It's completely different." MMA people, man, it's wild over there in boxing. Yeah, it's completely different. You gotta. I always tell people, if you want to cover these sports, you got to do your homework.
I agree,
because it's completely different. You can't be like, hey, I'm an MMA guy. I can go cover boxing. Or I know these people because even the mentalities, they had 4 fights, including 2 during the pay-per-view while Canelo was fighting. I've seen fights at MMA fights, but not like they had 3 Saturday, in fact. But when the main card starts, you know that, James, people will kind of simmer down. Not boxing, they about that life. They were boxing 2 fights during the main event.
We got a little bit of time here, but before we wrap things up, 2 things. Number 1, did you know Chris Cyborg's fighting on Friday? And number 2, do you know who's in the main event of this UFC card on Saturday? And I'm only asking because I want to kind of show people. It just goes to show like how much buzz
I knew Cyborg was fighting. I forget who she's fighting. I knew Cyborg.
Leslie Smith.
Because I'm out. Yeah. I'm friends with her on social media, so I knew about that one. And the next one, who's one of the fighters? I saw.
Don't worry about it. I'll solve the mystery here. It's Rob Font and Cody Garbrandt. Reason I bring that up is because we just had this pay-per-view. I find like this always happens. Whenever we do a big pay-per-view, it's like the card after gets lost in the dust. And I feel bad because this is Rob Font's first main event. He's fighting the former champ Cody Garbrandt. I think he wins, but we'll see how that fight unfolds. But a pretty good main event for next Saturday. And then I don't know if you know, the UFC is going on a break the week after, and then they're coming back for the another fight night card after this. Adesanya is in a couple weeks, so we got to
I think June's gonna be insane with the Mayweather and the TFMOs. But the Adesanya card is gonna be undercover lit. If it's built off 261, 262, 63, 263 should be dynamite.
Should be. You know they're doing that in Arizona, right? That card?
Yeah, it'd be
interesting. I guess because of the fans and all that, right? They needed to go to some different spots as well. So that's
good. What was your take watching all the coverage here at 262 from out the country? What was your take on everything you saw remotely?
Oh, you talking about like just our coverage or just in general?
General,
that was good, man. Listen, I know there's no one at the presser that's going to ask the questions like Kendrick, and no one talks like Kendrick either. So I can spot you a mile away. I mean, there's some people have their staple things. John Morgan always gets the first question. There's that type of stuff. But when Kendrick, I get a little smile on my face whenever I hear the Kendrick question, right? So because it's going to be a little bit different. But how did this compare? Because it seemed like you had a lot of fun this week.
Yeah, 262 and 261 were different. This one wasn't as intense as 261 was, but it had a lot more action and impact. It was like I said, they had 3 fights in the stands. I think I may have seen one at 261. They were about the people in Texas about their life.
Yeah. They don't care if they paid full money and they could get kicked out and lose the
exactly.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, they had 3 fights. The undercards kind of set the tone because you got like that Land of Venata. First time I seen him fight live. That dude's actually
Land of Venata. Yeah, no, he's good. Yeah. I saw him head kick John McDessie's head into like the front row in Toronto a couple years ago. That was a pretty good fight. But that was one of the best fights.
He got head kicked too. Or no, was that no? It was him. That was who's the one that survived the head kick? I think it was Shane, wasn't it? Shane got kicked
a bunch of times. Yeah, so it happens.
That fight was crazy though. That Barbosa and that fight. I'm glad they got fighted tonight. And then trying to think.
Jordan Wright destroying Pickett. How about that win?
Yeah, that dude there. He came out and did his damn thing. And then why people are surprised about Jacare? It's a young man's game, people. I don't care if it's MMA or boxing.
Well, to be fair,
the young man's gonna win 90% of the time.
No, I don't think people were surprised. No, I don't. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think people were surprised about Muniz winning. It was that he broke his arm. Like he submitted Jacare. Jacare's a jiu-jitsu guy. That's like someone. It's like McGregor getting knocked out. You know what I mean? That's why the Poirier win was so much bigger, was because he knocked out McGregor. If he wins a submission or a decision, doesn't mean as much. But to beat them at their own game, that's impressive. So that's
I think Poirier gets too much props for the knockout because Conor was like in like cement. He couldn't move because of the kick. So it wasn't like he caught him with a punch. Like he didn't do to him what Oliveira did to Chandler. That's what people act like though.
Yeah. But how many knockout losses McGregor had, right? I think that's the only one in the UFC. I know Habib rocked him.
Yeah. In the UFC, that's the only one. I think it's the second one ever.
All right, we got 90 seconds left.
Props to Charles Oliveira, man. He made me a fan. I thought he was going out the first round.
You should have been a fan when I told you he was going to win.
I thought the first round was going to happen. He wasn't going to get up.
I thought Chandler had him in that first, but it happened.
I had him. That's exactly how I thought the fight was going to go to a T. I was like this close to be like, man, this went exactly. But props to him.
You were ready to talk some smack on Monday, but now it's me who gets the luxury of that, right? So
yeah, because he got off the ground. I didn't think he was going to get off the ground. When he got off the ground, like, oh, Chandler got him because that dude said, who did have a better ground game, Oliveira or Damian Maia? Because they got the two best that I've seen.
Kendrick, what do you got coming up this week before we get out of here?
This week I'm actually taking a rest. My podcast is going to be in Dallas for a week. I've been home in like 3 weeks. Yeah, I got to watch my team. They got to win on Wednesday. I'm not nervous about it, but yeah, I got the Warriors, right? Yeah, they beat them. They swept them.
Better watch out for my guy Andrew Wiggins, the Canadian, right? He's been playing pretty well for the Warriors. There.
I ain't worried about him. I worry about 3-0. That man is ridiculous. I worry about Steph Curry going for 50 because he can do it on anybody.
In terms of me, I got a bunch of interviews up this week. No PFL for me this week. We're off till June 10th. Next week on the show, looks like we're getting a UFC champion. Not going to mention who, because again, don't like if stuff doesn't pan out. This champion was supposed to be on this week, but we're hoping to get that for next week. But a lot in store. I want to thank everyone for tuning in here. Sorry, go ahead.
One of the best in the world, literally.
Of course. Well, we only get the best, right? Just like today. So there you go. For producer Phil, for Kendrick Johnson, I am James Lynch. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Lynch on Sports. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. It's an easy thing to do. You literally just go hit the thumbs up, do that, and then subscribe to the channel. You won't miss an episode. We do the show every Monday. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.